Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about the gap between our expectations as business owners on how hard things are to get done and the capability set in our current state of the world, March 1st, 2026. If you haven't seen my videos before, quick introduction. My name is Logan Skis. I'm a Marine infantry veteran, and I spent the last decade as a fractional integrator, working alongside business owners as the de facto second in command, focused on strategy execution and increasing operations efficiency. Today, we run the Venture Map community built on a base template that maps out your entire organization in one place. There's nothing else like it, and you can have it for free. I'll even help you get started. Jump into the link below, join our free community, get the templates set up, and book a one-on-one call with me to get you up to speed quickly. All right, let's get back to the matter at hand. Something I've seen a lot of in my one-on-one meetings with clients and the group calls in our community a lot recently is this sense of working in the past. And I don't blame anybody. Something I talk with my wife, Jasmine, about regularly is how astounding it is at the speed at which real world tasks can be executed, that even a few months ago, it would have been inconceivable for it to be that cheap, fast, easy, and high quality. So by no means is this something that maybe you should have already known outside of the 0.1% AI bros that are living on Reddit and YouTube and X to stay up to speed with this thing. And I probably am close to that cohort. I do my best to stay abreast of the new technology, to stay as close as possible to the edge in order to understand how we can implement and integrate and adapt that into the real world businesses that are across my book of business and the portfolio of companies that I support and the members in our community with their businesses. All right, let me give you a crystal clear, practical example. Just in the last week, I was on a community call. We were discussing lead magnets. We were discussing funnels and homepages and websites and these things. And in the same week, I was in a client call with an individual in a completely different set of circumstances who has billions of dollars of exits behind them. And there was a similar conversation about lead magnets and funnels and websites. And there's a big stretch. The individuals that I've had conversations with literally in the last week span industries, span net worth, span experience, and organization sizes, et cetera. So it's a common pattern that I've observed, and such a high frequency, short period of time, I felt compelled to share this. It's something I've thought a lot about because in all of the occasions, I've literally put screen share on, go into an app, a tool that I'll talk about here in a minute, and in real time, just started vibe coding, just started delegating the task to a virtual agent, to an AI agent. So one of the big roles of a COO, of an integrator, is capturing an idea and running that idea through into execution to operationalize a strategy. And that's something that I've been doing full time for the last decade or so. In one vein, this is very much in my wheelhouse, working with agents. It's very similar. There's a ton of similarities to delegating to virtual employees, to human team members. To be honest, it's a lot easier. It's faster, generally higher quality, and way cheaper. Just to kind of clearly plant my flag before I move forward and tell you the tool, it's Lovable. And there's a few others. There is a secret tool that I think not many people know about, and I'm stoked to tell you about today. We're going to talk about pricing and setting it up and weaving them together and that stuff, and I'll be fast. But just to disambiguate my position, I've been in the camp of workforce disintermediation for a long time. Since early 2019, I started putting all of my efforts into understanding how to disintermediate personal trainers from my virtual fitness business. And that sounds perhaps harsh, but one thing I realized back then is we put so much energy and effort into developing a business model, a go-to-market strategy, doing branding and marketing and content and ads and customer acquisition, the sales process, to actually just get somebody in the door, to build a promise that's made through our value proposition to members of our customer segments and take them through that expensive, time consuming, difficult process, oftentimes of bringing business in or generating revenue. And within the context of a service business, just to hand them off to a human service provider where the entire crux of our value proposition depends on their personality, depends on their moment to moment feelings. I would say the success of the entire business was won and lost based on the individual human service provider in the fitness context and in many others. So the thing I've said for years is if that trainer, if that remote coach got a flat tire on the way to work, missed their coffee and had a fight with their girlfriend, the promise of our value proposition has been degraded significantly. There's a large risk factor that when that individual human being shows up to work, they're not going to be at their A game. And in order for us to maintain a highly competitive stance in the marketplace, we need to be at our A game at all times. So this is a perspective that I've had for many years, way before the concept of large language models was largely proliferated. So we were in computer vision, pose estimation, gamification of virtual training that was AI enabled back in 2019. And I honestly feel unapologetic about that, not because I don't care about people. In fact, I actually really care about the health and culture of our organizations and the individual agency of leaders and the autonomy of the individuals on teams to do the best work of their careers and to live life on their own terms. That's actually the Alamo for me. That's the hill I live and die on as a founder and entrepreneur. And I'll say, I think that the technologies that we have available to us today, these same technologies that are driving workforce disintermediation, right? That's to disintermediate, that's pull something that's mediating one node to a next, that's essentially extending a value chain that disintermediates the owners of a business from value creation and delivery to the customers. And I think that the same forces that are creating workforce disintermediation are also providing a democratization of access to those same capabilities to allow us to do it on our own. So I don't want to drift off into philosophy, but I want to be very clear that I'm not looking at this through rose-colored glasses. I think there's a lot of disingenuous virtue signaling from a lot of people in the space where they say that this will not cause job loss. I believe it will. And I actually know for a fact it already is because I've seen it. I'm an operations leader with a number of businesses, and I have been for many years. It's a blessing from the Lord. I'm grateful to be in that trusted and privileged role. It is a gift from God, and it's also one that I've worked very hard for a long time to be brought into the fold for internal conversations with CEOs and in a trusted capacity. But I know for a fact it is happening. Likewise, the other position that a lot of people say is, you may have heard this, AI is not going to take your job. People that know how to use AI is going to take your job. That's true too. And I know that for a fact because there are individuals on teams that are now doing 5, 10x more than their colleagues in similar roles just because of their inclination towards AI. And a few other things we can talk about that are actually common sense and unchanged. In so many ways, not a lot has changed. It's still the same game, just the stakes have increased and the speed has increased. If you're a lifelong learner, if you believe in adapting to your circumstances and overcoming challenges, for having an internal locus of control, for being realistic with what you can influence in this life, then you're in a great spot to continue succeeding. If you have a victim mentality, you've never believed or don't believe in a meritocracy, you don't have an appreciation for inputs and outputs, the harder you work, the more input, the greater the quality of the output. If you're in that camp, then it's going to be the Soviet era breadline for you, hoping for universal basic income and a capitalist society where there's zero indication that anything like that is actually going to happen. I could be wrong though. I could be wrong. But again, let's pull it out from the philosophy, from the unsolicited lecture, and get into the gap. So back in the current state, I'm in the last week, I'm in client meetings, I'm in community calls, I'm in team workshops across businesses and sectors. And there is a departure on thinking of what it's going to take to pull off a build. And this is a lead magnet, a homepage, a funnel, content campaign, social media content campaign. And literally on the call, I pull up screen share, and without overly prompt engineering it, without trying to be some savant in structuring this like 3,000 page, ultra giga Chad, nuanced, finessed thing, I just start talking to Lovable in this case, or Claude, like I would another person. And perhaps I have some bias towards like structural thinking. Perhaps I have some experience being a decade in the space, being able to capture an idea and run it through. Sure, that's me. But this isn't some 10-pound brain, 500 IQ thing. It's like, we need a lead magnet. We want it to have a free lesson in it from our course, and there needs to be an opt-in, and there needs to be a push to the sales page afterwards. Here's our brand style. Here's some assets that will help you know what person is we're talking about. Go. Right? That's a start. That's the kind of thing that took meetings and plans and proposals and weeks. Now it's like on the freaking call where we're discussing it, that we need that. I'm hitting screen share. I'm literally doing it. And in 5 minutes, there's an example on the screen. That's the world we're living in right now. The new metric that needs to be discussed is time from idea to execution. Because what most people don't realize is there is a constraint collapse. We're literally, it has happened already and it's continuing to happen, where one of the biggest constraints we faced in knowledge work and cognition is that in order to pull off these types of workflows or processes, they were stonewalled. They were guarded fiercely behind profitability, and they were inextricably tied to time and expertise and specialist know-how. So just as an example, if I wanted 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year even, if I wanted to produce a very high performing sales funnel with a lead magnet in it and a nurture sequence and automations that triggers pipelines, and have that whole thing that's on brand and on tone of voice and aligned with best practices and woven into our monetization strategy and all that stuff. So I wanted that. I would either have to like belly up to the desk and pay money to learn from pros, or watch dozens of hours of YouTube videos and read a bunch of stuff and study outputs from different AI models and just sit there and try to saturate my brain with the best practices and MK Ultra style brainwash myself to know the bare minimum of performance in the space, and then interpret manually tone of voice, business model, brand styles, try to find boilerplate templates that are a good stepping off point, so I'm not reinventing the wheel, and then like manually type stuff in, move boxes around on the screen for days, like literally days if I'm fast. And I have no day job. I have no other thing I'm doing nights and weekends. If it would take days, honestly, that's a weeks long project, because then you have to meet with the client. You got to show them stuff. It's a lot, right? Not anymore. The constraints around production is what's collapsed. Now the adjacent constraints have been revealed. For example, one of the big constraints any freelancer, consultant, knowledge worker, et cetera, knows is how big the bottleneck is on stakeholder review and feedback. It's very uncommon to encounter an executive stakeholder with such an expansive availability of cognitive load that they can intake a substantial amount of information in a short period of time, develop a meaningful level of comprehension, and articulate with a high degree of specificity feedback on how to move the current state to the target state. In other words, what the gap is, what the deviation is from where we're at versus where we're trying to go and how to close that, clarifying expectations and desired outcomes. That's a very rare thing for CEOs or executive leaders to be able to do at that small and medium-sized business level for many reasons that we can get into another day. Part of it is because they're in a reactive state most of the time. Most of them are burnt out to some extent. It's really just brute force, gung ho, do your worst type of thing. At least that's been my experience and observation. Going from idea to initial iteration, that's the thing that can happen almost immediately now. And you don't have to be a multi-million dollar CEO to experience that. That's why I've said it's democratized. We can literally do it. And I've got a few price points pulled up today. I'm going to show you. For actually the last couple of years, I've been punching into these tools. There's been a number of times I've made big progress and then it's just riddled with bugs and unusable. And I'm like, the vibe coding thing's cool, but as a non-developer, as someone who rejects code like the plague, I honestly, no inclination whatsoever to ever look at a code base or SQL or HTML or CSS or a JavaScript, any of that stuff. I respect, I appreciate those who are proficient in navigating that world. I've worked with a number of them. I've got nothing but respect for them. That's not me. I've got the self-awareness and the experience to understand where my vein is, where my zone of genius and unique ability lies, where my high leverage skill set can be applied in businesses. And being a coder is not one of them. So that's clear. Yet I've been able to push code that is so badass. My friends that are in IT are like, did somebody do this for you? No. Claude, Claude code. I've shown some of them the user interface designs that are the front end, the UI that's on my apps. And they're like, did somebody do that for you? Did you bring in a designer for that? Nope. Me and Claude. So I'm going to show you how the tools have breached the surface in terms of usability, real world utility. There's a difference between emerging capabilities that can have a proof of concept and hypothetical use cases that are very narrow versus like real world value add from new tech. And we're at that place. We're at that second place now. So I'm just going to give you the short form version of what I would tell colleagues on a project and what I would tell clients that they need to do as members of the community are hustling every single day. I see you guys on every week almost, right? We come together for our weekly planning on Mondays. We have our coffee hours on Friday. We come together sometimes on Wednesday to talk projects and AI integration. So I've got pretty good insight into where things are at as the thinnest slice of a fractional integrator's engagement distributed in the community context. That insight has enabled a lot of direction for me and how I allocate bandwidth and productization, because providing distributed solutions for what I'm seeing work and more centralized engagements with clients where I put more of my bandwidth, my day job, right? Those patterns and the methods and frameworks that are applied there to drive success, the majority of them apply across the board. I really think it's moved into, there's been a phase shift in terms of real world utility that it's probably most dangerous in the hands of solopreneurs who have a certain set of skills and are committed to consistent learning and adaptation. And they have a plasticity or fluidity of perspective, and they can adapt that, because that's really the only thing holding you back right now is your perspective. If you're looking at tasks and you're looking at projects through the lens of 2023, through the lens of 2015, through the lens of 2002, or even 2025, you are being decimated by others in the space who are moving at 100 times speed, because that is what is available. So you can choose. Now is the time. If you've heard this, if you're watching this, now you've heard it. You can't unhear it. So you have to consciously choose to ignore it, to scratch it off as hype, to disregard your potential ability to step into it, and risk the gap growing, because we're in a K-shaped economy now. Those with are getting more. Those without are getting less. It is consistently spreading. It's a K-shaped economy. It's a K-shaped skill set as well. So those that are lacking technical proficiencies in this will continue going down, and those with will continue going up. So you have to determine where you're going to land on that, where you want to land on that. And then you got to back that up with aggressive action. I'll finish by saying this before we get into the sauce, as the kids say. It's never going to be easier to make the jump than it is right now. Imagine a giant crevasse in Antarctica. If you're conducting an expedition, one of the greatest threats in the frozen tundra, in the plains of the frozen tundra, is a crevasse. If you've ever seen these things, they're nightmarish. They're hellish. They could go down hundreds of feet. They could be covered with just a few feet of packed snow. If you step on those things, you could fall and never be found again, swallowed by the abyss. Sometimes when the glacier will essentially start cracking, and it will drift off into the sea, and the rift in the ice will just continue growing. That's the metaphor. That's the visual image in my mind here. The gap is not going to get smaller. That's very unlikely. The gap is only going to grow larger. And if you think that the gap is large today, just imagine what it's going to be 6 months from now, a year or 6 years from now. Impossible. Because not only will the tech be so much more powerful, those who have been using the tech are so much more aware of its capabilities and utilizing it, implementing it into the real world. And you're just starting to learn how to do some rudimentary tasks. It's going to be extremely difficult to keep up. And again, this isn't new in a sense. Michael Porter in the 80s or 90s, kind of one of the founding fathers, maybe the 70s, of strategy in a business context. He said that the nature of business is competition. The nature of strategy and the economy is all competition. That's been true of human endeavor since the dawn of time. Competition is an essential element of that. And if that afflicts your woke little heart, then I just say too bad, because it's true. Now let's proceed. It's true. I'm not trying to be mean, but sometimes tough love is required. If you care about someone, you tell them what they need to hear. If you care about yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. So telling you what you need to hear. All righty. So here we are. First tool is Lovable. Lovable. Most people don't know what Lovable is. It's legit. And I've told a number of people this, and I feel like they've got tool overwhelm, and I don't blame them for that. I'd say, don't overthink it. You can start for free. Okay. It is, if you do not have a Lovable account and you're not a founder who's AI maxing we can get into some of the more advanced stuff. So if you're an advanced guy or gal, you've been plugging in Manus agents or Clawbots, or you've been working in Cursor or Windsurf or any of these other tools, just hang in there for 2 minutes and see if you can gain anything from the foundations. I can't tell you how many times I've dealt with advanced people at advanced stages and skill sets, but then when I assess the foundations, dude, let's rewind. All right. And that spans across sectors. So even if you think that you're too good for Lovable, I'll tell you, I've worked with a number of IT professionals that spend their entire freaking days in Windsurf that are blown away by what this tool can do. And to be honest, the interfaces that come out of this and the user experiences and interactions that we can get just in Lovable far surpass a lot of the crap that I've seen these guys punch out through, that IT pros, that masters of the trade are able to put out when they're spending 12 hours a day in Windsurf or Cursor. So pay attention. It is legitimately badass. I've spent a couple 100 hours in a few of the competitor platforms that are like built for normies, regular people who don't want to look at code. For example, Replit. There's a few others out there that I have not tried as extensively, but Lovable as of now is my go-to. It is so powerful. It's so simple. There is literally no reason for you not to get a membership. You can get it today, and you should do that. You should if I've ever delivered value, if I have established any level of trust in our working relationship, you should just pause the video now, get started, and come back, because it's only going to get more advanced from here. If you don't have this, things are going to be a little mixed up. All right. So Lovable is a great place to start. If you're already accustomed to prompting, then like working with a ChatGPT, working with a Gemini, Claude, Grok, whatever, Manus. Now, this is basically it. You've got a chat window and you've got a canvas, and whatever you want, you can pretty much have. It's that simple. For the most part, if you want websites, if you want apps, if you want an internal tool, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Imagine that you have a extremely smart, extremely fast person on payroll for $25 a month. That's it. That's the first thing that you need. Lovable is an amazing entrance point. And talk about the wheelchair ramp analogy. ADA compliance is big if you're building business, physical brick and mortar environments. That wheelchair ramp is like this steep, right? You don't want it this steep. You need it at a certain gradient. You want to ease into it, right? You can't have it too steep. This is a nice incline. Going from regular chat interface to this is just makes you feel like your chat got superpowers. So once you have this, I'm going to save you hundreds and maybe even thousands of dollars in tokens on Lovable and hundreds of hours figuring this out. This is what yours truly did for you. What you're going to want to do is connect your project to GitHub. Just go to GitHub, sign up, log in with your Google. That's it. Create an account, name it. All right. Now, what you're going to want to do is connect it to GitHub. That basically means all of the code, all that goodness that AI is generating up behind the scenes is going to go from inside of Lovable, which is kind of like a little walled garden. It's going to be put into GitHub. It doesn't affect anything. You don't even have to look at code, but it's going to basically make it like in a shared Google Drive or a shared Dropbox, right? So if it's only in your personal drive, you have to it's hard to share it out with people. So you got to put in that shared drive. GitHub has been around since the dawn of technology time. It's the most trusted thing in the game, very secure, et cetera, et cetera. Again, don't overthink it. If you trust me, which you should at this point, if you don't, it's because you haven't given me the opportunity to over deliver. And if that's the case, click the link below, join the free community. I'm going to help you spin up a couple of things for free, meet with you one-on-one to spin it up. It's going to be a great time. A bunch of other people have taken advantage of it. You should too. All right, back to it. Get GitHub synced up. You got Lovable, GitHub. You're going to need a paid subscription on Lovable. Most likely, if you want to have any horsepower in this. So $25 a month, risk $25. Okay. Just risk it. Just try it. You can do a little bit, 5 credits a day, but that's going to be burnt up real quick. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. You're going to need a decent amount just to start. Okay. $25 there. I'm going to bring this up just to keep track of how much money I'm telling people to spend. So Lovable, $25 a month. That's very reasonable. If you're add an extra 2 zeros on top of that easily for the capabilities to be done by any other person. Now, this is a tool that very few people have talked about. So you have your Lovable, you've got the code exported into this thing called GitHub, and then there's a way to accelerate it. But before I get into augment code, you are going to need this. If you don't already have a Claude subscription, I have spent bajillion hours, that's the mathematically correct term, inside of ChatGPT. And and Gemini for that matter. I can tell you as of today, March 1st, 2026, Claude is unstoppable. It is freakishly powerful. And it's, again, one of those things, just try it. If you don't want to take my word for it, just risk the $20 and try it. You're going to need a paid account for this. Personally, I'm on Max, but that's also because I'm prompting all day. So you can get away with a pro subscription that's $20, but you will need that in order for you to be able to get up to a fast speed very quickly. For example, if you just say, I'm going to stick with Lovable, that's fine, right? Everyone moves at their own pace, but with a few extra tweaks, you're going to be able to go from pretty decent to supercar status And the complexity is not like, it's not going to scale. It's still simple to do for the most part. So you got your Lovable, it's in GitHub. Now go to Claude, throw $20 at it. What's our grand total now? Claude. Many of you already are paying money for a pro sub. Is it worth switching from ChatGPT to Claude if you can only choose one? Yes, it is. I know it's so painful to say goodbye to your favorite LLM, but just give it a chance. All right. Now, once you got this, guess what you also have? Access to Claude Code and Cowork. We're not going to talk about Cowork today. Shorthand, it's cool. Now, this is the secret weapon. I have seen nobody talking about this. There's very few. It's unbelievable how it's not really being talked at. I've told my wife, it's a miracle that I found this in the first place. Augment Code's been around for a while, but they just released this thing called Intent. Don't let all of this squirrely stuff make you feel unsettled, non-technical founder. It is like ridiculously easy to use after you get it set up. Basically, it allows you to go 10 or 100x. So for example, what's the situation? If you're working with Lovable, you literally, it's better now. They just released an update like a month ago, but you can say, I want to make a landing page. And it's going to say, okay, cool. I'm going to make a landing page. It makes it. Then you got to look at it and you got to say, I want to change this part. Okay, cool. I'll change that part. And then it does it. And then it's very one-to-one. So in one hand, it's good for everyone who's used to that type of thing. But on the other hand, it becomes very slow and time consuming relative to, relative to the space. It's 10 times faster, 100 times faster than it used to be with people. But when you're in the space, the new norm is it's actually pretty slow. And there's a way to go way faster. Think about it like this. You can only have one Lovable AI executed. And it could execute on its own for a couple of minutes, which is better than it used to, but it's only one. And even if you plug in a more powerful AI like Claude Code on whatever it is, Sonnet 4.6 or Opus 4.6, which you can connect your desktop app for Claude Code directly into the GitHub repository, which is that shared drive of your code. And it can still just show up right in your Lovable app. So you can get more power, higher quality, higher speed from the Claude subscription, which is recommended. That's what we're going to do. But it's still, even with Claude Code, it's tricky to spin up multiple instances, multiple of the Claudes at the same time. That gets a little wonky. That's where Intent comes in. Again, this thing is next level. I know everyone on YouTube is talking about Google anti-gravity. A lot of people talk about Cursor, Windsurf, other tools. This one, I believe, honestly, blows them out of the water. One, because of its simplicity. Two, because of its power. So if you're a non-coder, a non-technical founder that wants AI to work for them, and if you've ever poked your eyes in anti-gravity, Google anti-gravity, that tons of people are talking about, this is much better. There's one feature that is a miss that I think they're going to bring in time. I certainly hope they do. And that's the in-browser testing. And we can talk about that, but this is 100% worth it. So download it and you're going to basically have to do some nerdly stuff in the terminal, which sucks, but it is what it is. And you can use your Claude Code to basically help you set this up. So it's, at the end of the day, it's literally just like talking to a smart IT guy saying, help me do this, and copying and pasting stuff. That's it. Once you get it live, this thing is so legit because then you have this very simple UI, which it's funny, they don't even show the UI here. Check this out. Boom. You've got this. This is what it looks like. So it's stupid simple. It's perfect. Now I've got multiple spaces, so I can hide that. It could look just like this. You connect your Claude account to this. So basically now you're talking with Claude and you connect your GitHub to this. So now it can see your code, your Lovable apps code. And you just talk to this thing. But what it does is it orchestrates agents. So it has the ability to say, okay, Claude, you're going to be the coordinator. You're going to figure out how to make what I tell you to do the best it can possibly be done. Think of this as like project manager. You had the Scrooge McDuck coin to throw at bringing on a full-time project manager. That person is what you would tell it, what your intent and your desired outcomes and what needs to happen. And they would put together a fantastic plan. That's what this does first. Then that project manager, that coordinator agent says, we're going to need 2, 3, 5, 10 instances of Claude or little task agents. He'll show you, it will show you the plan. He will show you the plan. You approve it or change it. Once you approve it, the coordinator agent automatically starts spinning off specialist agents that are focused on tasks. Whereas before it would have just been 1 to 1. Now it's already 1 to multiple. And after those tasks after those task specific agents finish their work, verifier agents come on to start checking it all, which reduces bugs and improves quality. It's awesome. Once it's all done, it submits to you and you can check it out. All you got to do is basically say, push the code, get it live, and you can go right back into Lovable, and there, it's that easy. So this is the secret power. This is a superpower. It's unbelievable what this thing can do. So the beautiful thing about intent, it's free. So you actually don't have to pay for it. I do recommend just checking out their paid tokens. I haven't been able to exactly figure out how that's going to make a big difference. It seems like it burns through tons of credits really quickly for their context machine thing. So all I can tell you is that you can get it for free. It's 100% worth it. And if you need help setting it up, let me know. We can brute force it together. Okay, so you need intent equals free. My second favorite free F word, maybe my first. Last thing. A lot of people have heard about Zapier. Zapier is great. Make is great. And you've probably heard about N8N. If you haven't, don't worry about it. It's one of these types of things. It's an automation thing. And it's widely considered one of the most effective, powerful automation tools in existence as of today. It's a fiercely competitive space right now. But N8N is legit. Basically, this is the type of things it does. Triggers AI agents being brought in automatically to do stuff and then output. Less than a year, I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to cut through materials and go through the learning curve of doing this manually. I'm very grateful to have colleagues in the space who've been automation pros for years that were able to help me deliver a lot of automation projects. And that's putting time and real money. So as someone who's put in easily a couple hundred hours into learning N8N myself through the pros in the space and spent thousands on specialists who are legitimate experts on this. What I can tell you is as of today, there are capabilities for Claude Code to do all of this for you and do it at a very high level. So we're talking free and quick. So free relative to what it used to cost, it might as well be free. But there are some hard costs that you will incur to pull it off. So I don't want to leave anyone feeling misled. You're going to have to throw down $25 a month. N8N equals 25 a month. Okay, so let's just go ahead. Let's just move him down here for a while because we need it, but we don't have to pay for it. Thanks, Augment Code, for being legit. I'm not sponsored by them, but I'm a huge freaking fan of what you guys have done. They're amazing. Okay, N8N, and they deserve more. I'll just tell you this: intent deserves way more hype than it's getting right now because of how awesome and insanely powerful it is. And not to mention their troubleshooting guys. I kind of imagine that they're all going to be like level 10 hacker style dudes. And I was like the only non-technical guy on earth bumping around into it who's detests looking at a terminal. And they've actually been really responsive because I asked a few things were buggy. They've been updating it so regularly. They were responsive. I would say thumbs up for intent and for Augment Code as a outsider to the tech world. N8N, you need it. It's easy. Sign up, give it $25. Just bet on yourself. Just make a bet, right? So far, call it 50, 60, 70 bucks, right? You're worth $70. That's my $70 right here. You're worth that. That's seriously, your vision, your business is worth a $70 experiment. Now, once you have this, there's one more thing that I need to tell you about, and it's MCPs. Okay. If you don't know about MCPs, this is like the magic unlock. It basically is like an app store for AIs, and it allows the AIs to communicate with like thousands and thousands of different tools. So it's a whole discussion and universe into itself that we don't have time to discuss today. But just be aware if there's a thing, if we have our Claude code, we have our AI, now we can tell the AI to download an app to connect a little bridge integration like an API to speak to other apps. We can do that now with our Claude talking to N8N, and it can build out those workflow automations seamlessly. It's pretty amazing. Now, admittedly, I have yet to try the N8N MCP directly. One of my colleagues who's done it extensively gave me recent feedback as of the last week and a half, as it's not exactly the best. She actually goes through with copying and pasting the JSON from one place to another between N8N and Claude Code. She's found that to be, and I don't like taking the slow route when I don't have to. So I found this tool. This is the most expensive one I'm going to share yet, which is ironic. But and if you're serious about automations, this is super important. Basically, this is a special tool that will help Claude talk to N8N without it being a pain in the butt, which is super important because I'm telling you right now, the last thing you want to deal with is go into this environment, this N8N environment. When I'll tell you what, when you click on these things, it doesn't look that, let's see if we can show you. It doesn't look, the visual part here is cool, but when you get into these things, yeah, there you go. It's all data. And for a non-technical person, it is cumbersome for sure. So the Cinta AI MCP is legit. Who knows? N8N is probably going to come. I would say they might take these guys lunch money, but I could be wrong, right? If you only focus on one thing, you usually get pretty good at it. And that's what these guys seem to be doing. So I recommend it. If you're going to be building out automations, this is great because then it's basically having an automation guy, which literally will cost thousands and thousands of dollars to do. And you basically turn your Claude code into an automation guy. And you're avoiding one of the most difficult things, which is bug fixing. That can be the most frustrating thing is when you're trying to build an automation and it just doesn't work. This makes it work. And the beauty is you can work with it directly in intent. So it can be vibe coding your app and vibe automating your N8N and syncing those things up together. And then all you have to do is to be the executive stakeholder looking at your Lovable screen once it pushes the code to GitHub and see the stuff come to life. And if there's a bug, you just hold down, your voice to text, whisper low. If you're using a flow tool, I'm not going to recommend this. I don't want to add it into the, maybe I should provide, what is it, $20 pricing? I think this is monthly, 15. Okay. I'll add this in because it's a lot of people overlook how helpful it is. This is funny. I wasn't going to try to add anything else besides these. I was trying to keep it under $100 for you guys, but Cinta, that's like a S tier. That is like the savant of the mix. If you're trying to do hardcore work with automations, Cinta is awesome. And then I'm obviously not sponsored by them either. I would say I'm agnostic to tools. I'm loyal to capabilities and outcomes. And that's why I'm sharing with you the view that I have now, because one of my core values is leave no stone left unturned. And I've done that and continue to do that for my business and on behalf of my clients. That's literally one of the main reasons clients bring me in, is because of that thoroughness and that rigor and dedication to delivering outcomes. And these tools are in my stack right now. I use them every day. Cinta, these guys are actually, like I said, the most expensive in the batch, but one of those things I was like, yeah, whatever, you got to do it. Monthly, $34, probably going to burn through that pretty quick if you're doing serious work, to be honest. But a lot of you may be Because I'll tell you what, that's where my promise at the end comes in. I'll give you all of the automation templates in N8N, all the lovable templates, and that should save you 80% of the tokens. Because that's the big thing is token usage, which you're going to be capped on tokens. You're, you're, you're capped on this, but you'll probably have a hard time reaching it, to be honest. There's a pretty generous usage availability here. And then on this plan, you're going to be capped too. But if you're just customizing a pre-built template, you're going to be able to make it. So I've incurred that cost on your behalf. You're welcome. I love you. Now, Senta, and then I'll tell you, dudes, this is so legit. There's a couple others out there. I'm sure they're just as good, maybe some better. I have not yet got a chance to cut into it. Just to be honest, I haven't been frustrated at all with Whisperflow. The mobile experience is a little bit of a bummer for a couple of reasons, but on computer, it's 80% of the time, 90% of the time, it's perfect. And I use it all day, every day. And I rarely use the keyboard for anything else now besides just holding down the hotkey and talking to the computer, and that thing comes out. So let's do our little grand total. Let's see how well we remembered our math. All right. So we've got $50, 60, 70 plus 30. It's 105 plus 15. And we've got a grand total of 120 calculations. All right. So we got $120. Okay. Now bet on yourself. This capability set is literally a marketing team, an IT team with automations and automation and development specialists and designers, content marketers, customer experience, customer support, customer success, all that stuff is in here for $120. And I'm not exaggerating. So there's probably a few other things that you'll have to pay for, go high level. But if you get on our pro tier, which I'm going to release today, I'm pretty excited about, I'll give you go high level, a sub account for free. So that'll help. This is all of your social media. This is all of your funnels and websites and nurture sequences, CRM, all that. And I'll help you get it set up. So we're going to launch the pro tier today. So there's my $, $80 a month. And I will help you get set up with all of the template stacks that I have. And I'll continue to help you optimize. If you stay on the premium tier, you can still have access to it all. I'm going to be recording tutorial videos and you can follow along asynchronously. If you want live support, I'm going to meet with you and get you onboarded. It'll probably take more than one onboarding session, to be honest. So it'll probably look like 2, maybe 3 onboarding sessions for the first founding cohort that comes through. We'll keep it fluid. We'll keep it flexible. We'll probably throw 3 in there. But that's what we're looking at, guys. So appreciate you. I love you guys. I am so excited for what you're going to build with this, what you're going to do with this. I just so highly respect the members of our community. It's almost inconceivable how powerful this is. And I want to just break down those barriers for you guys so you can start thinking about it in a way that's current state. Okay. So that's that. I appreciate you guys. If you are watching this and you're not in the community yet, there's no reason not to join. It's free. I'll either meet with you one-on-one to kind of get you brought up to speed and set up. If you're in our premium tier, all of the lovable templates, all of the N8N templates, all the prompts and good stuff I've talked about is yours. It just takes some copying and pasting. Tutorials are dropping soon in the classroom on how to actually do that stuff, how to actually vibe code and in intent, in Claude code, in Lovable, how to set up those N8N automations, how to integrate them together. And if you want to just skip to the front of the line and get my media machine, which is a vibe coded app connected to N8N automations to punch out amazing content that's on brand, on voice, and aligned with best practice for conversions in the real world, let me know. Likewise, we've got some other amazing things coming out very soon. I'm stoked to deliver. Thank you for your time, for being the best part of the Venture Map community. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments below and what's missing. What did I not discuss? What's hard to believe? And where do you think you're going to get stuck on? Where do you need me to focus my efforts in the next video on? All right. That's it for now. Thanks again. And until the next one. Logan out.